Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Carrie Blair. She is the owner and CEO of the Style Studio by Carrie Blair, and I'm so delighted to have her on the show today. Welcome, Carrie. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be with you.
I asked Carrie to come on the show today because I recently heard her on another podcast, and she has her own, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And I just said, fabulous information. She's got such great tips, so many wonderful things to share. And so I wanted her to be on and share that with all of my listeners. So, again, thanks for coming on. And
That's sweet.
let's go ahead and just jump right in and tell us how it was that you decided to start the style studio. And was it just, bam, I want to do this? Or was it something that led up to that?
So there was a lot that led up to it, I would say. I started the business over 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And prior to this company, I was in sales and I would travel the country and I would go meet with CEOs and executives in New York and LA and Texas and kind of all over the country. And I had this epiphany that you can't dress the same in different cities, especially in a boardroom, because people won't listen to you. And I was young. So that was my first epiphany. I went, wait a minute, I can't dress the same. And then I would get burned out and I would take a break from my corporate sales job and I would go work at Neiman Marcus for a little while. And then I would go back into my corporate sales job and then I would get burned out and take a break and go to Nordstrom for a while. Can you see a theme here? I was not meant for corporate sales. What I learned on that journey about that you can't dress the same in different cities and be listened to the same way. And then what I learned in my journey of working retail was that people didn't feel great about themselves. People would tug at their clothes and they were haphazard about how they dressed. And I had another epiphany one day and I went, wait a minute. If people actually looked in the mirror every day and loved how they looked and they felt amazing, then they could knock it out of the park in life. And if we could remove that barrier, they would have way more success. They could meet the love of their life. They could make more money. And I saw all of this was possible. So I designed this way of working with people to help fulfill their dreams. And for me, fashion or clothing is kind of my vehicle to accomplishing people living amazing, extraordinary lives that they've always wanted. So that's kind of my background and how I started.
I love it. And the point that you made about tugging at your clothes, it's
Mhm.
like this distraction. Your attention is split between how do I look and what am I trying to do right now? And you're not giving your full attention to what it is you're trying to do right now.
Mhm.
And I think that that's such a great point in what you're saying. Like, we can really excel when that is just not something we even have to worry about anymore, right?
Yeah. And if you think about how we start our day, so every day, I don't know about you, but I start my day with my mindset. I start my day by meditating. I also do Reiki and I get my mindset in this like awesome, pristine place, right?
Mhm.
But then we go into our closet and you're either going to have a great experience or a terrible experience. And then that's going to shape the rest of your day. And people sometimes think that this conversation can be superficial or not that important, especially after the pandemic, right? However, if we actually were present to the difference it does make in shaping our entire day, I think people would pay more attention to it and do something about it, which is what I hope to inspire women everywhere about.
That is such a valid point. When I walk into my closet and I see the variety of things that are in there, because we do all have to dress for different occasions, right?
Yep.
There's our everyday running around, doing errands. Then there's, a business event we need to go to, or, a podcast we need to host, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And you've got those options that are there, and sometimes it's just like, who do I wanna be today, or who do I need to be
Mhm.
today?
Yeah,
And if you're looking at what those options are and you're not happy with it, that just throws it all, like, out of whack.
absolutely. Absolutely. Which brings me to something else I'm really passionate about, which is first impressions.
Mm,
Most people, I mean, I don't know how old we were when we first learned about first impressions, right? I mean,
yeah,
young, really young. We learned how important first impressions are, but most people aren't doing anything about it. So they're not actually taking control over it. And if you do, then you can take control over your success in your future, which is so extraordinary.
yeah, absolutely. So, it sounds like this journey that you were kind of back and forth between these 2 different things
Yeah.
really helped you to, like, kind of point the direction that you needed to go. And so, you started the style studio how long ago?
Over 20 years ago, almost
Okay.
21. Can you believe
Wow.
that? I know. I swear I look 30, but it was longer than that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so tell us then, how did you establish that? Was it like a traditional business that you were establishing, or was it all strictly kind of, through the online presence, or how did you do that?
No. So back then, there wasn't really the online presence, right? I started my business before the show Not to Wear, if you remember that, like before any of those shows were out. Was there even a smartphone back then? I don't think so.
Mm,
But really was before everything that we now have. So, no, how I started my business was I had a client who shopped with me when I worked with Nordstrom. And I didn't say this, but I used to also lead personal development seminars.
mm,
So I knew kind of how the human brain worked and how our psyche worked. I created this strategic way to work with people to alter their first impression to fulfill their dreams. Or another way to say that is to have the essence of who they are on the inside shine through to the outside. And I went to this woman who shopped with me and I told her about my new process that I'd created. And she hired me after working together. I think it took us 3 days. It changed her life. And after I saw what was possible, because I just jumped right in. I didn't have a business plan. I had an idea. And then jumping right in and working with her and knowing it changed her life. And then she wanted to share it with everybody. Then I had a business. And, as with most people who start businesses, it was hard in the beginning because, like I said, when I started this business, it was way before any of those makeover shows. And so when I told people what I was going to do for them, they kind of looked confused. Like, you dress people? What? People need that? It was a long time ago, right? Now you say it and everyone, knows somebody who dresses somebody, or every store has a personal stylist. Much different world today than back then. So I, started slow and it probably took me, I don't know, 4 or 5 years to make it a full time business. And now I have a staff of 7 and a brick and mortar place that we style our clients out of. And it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. I love to hear that you can just start with an idea, and
Yeah.
don't all businesses just start with an idea?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, it's great if we can have the business background or a 5-year
Mhm.
plan in place and, a path that we wanna go. Sometimes it just doesn't happen that way, and it's just super organic, and it's like, "I've got this idea, let's see if I can run with it," and that sounds like what you did, and that's fantastic.
Mhm.
I love it.
I think sometimes it's better when you start with a passion, not a plan,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
that's really what I did is I started with a passion. And then eventually people told me I needed a plan, but I was too naive to even know I needed a plan. I was just winging it. And lucky, knock on wood, that it turned out. Sometimes I still pinch myself and look back and say, how did you become this successful? Like, how did that even happen? I mean, now I dress CEOs and celebrities and people running for government and people who go to the White House. And I'm like, did I really do that? with just a passion to change people's lives. And yes, so I hope that inspires, especially women everywhere that, find something that you love and that you're passionate about and that will make a difference for others and success will follow.
Mm. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about something that you shared with me, and that's how branding and the personal kind of style leads to success. And you kind of touched
Mm.
on that briefly, but can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. So, one thing that makes me unique and my firm unique is that we are committed to really rebranding people through their first impression. Companies know the value of branding, right? So, they focus a lot on their colors and the fonts they use and their website, et cetera, et cetera. But people don't. People just think if they focus all their attention on the businesses, that business will come, except for if your brand doesn't match what you're creating in the world, you'll miss the mark. I'm going to use this example. It's a funny example. So imagine you're at a party or a networking event or what have you, and there's a lot of people. And from across the room, you see this guy, and he is short, he's kind of portly, he's bald, and he looks like an accountant, right? Nothing wrong with accountants. I love my accountant. But, from my perspective, I would look across the room and say, I don't have anything in common with him. And it's a split second decision. I don't mean anything bad about this guy. I just mean like, oh, doesn't look like someone that would be interested in my work or what I'm up to, or I would have anything in common with. So I go about the night meeting other people, right? Okay. So the night is coming near an end. And my best friend is there, and she comes over to me and says, "Oh my gosh, have you met Steve yet?" And I said, "No, who's Steve?" And she brings this guy over to me. And she's like, "This is Steve." I start talking to Steve, and he is the funniest guy I've ever met, has a amazing personality. And we just hit it off and we end up talking, and he's like my new BFF, right? That happens all the time, doesn't it? I'm sure you've
Yeah.
had an experience. But the problem is that Steve needed an introduction
Mhm.
to meet me because his image didn't match who he is on the inside. So with wearing the clothes and the right colors and the right styles, it can really bring out who you are. And then if all that's there is the essence of who you are on the inside shines through, you attract what you want to attract in life. It's quite miraculous.
Mm.
I mean, I've had clients. I have this woman who hired me, and she was up for a VP position in her company probably in the next 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. And she hired me. We rebranded her, redesigned her first impression, and she got the position within 6 months. There was another woman who came to me who was divorced for 5 years, was ready to get in a relationship, but she looked like a frumpy divorcee. So we had to completely redesign her and refreshen who she is because she's not that same woman anymore.
Mhm.
And she was going on a singles cruise, which is so fun. And I mean, she had never had a manicure a day in her life. She had never
Mhm.
put on makeup. So, we got her new clothes, taught her how to do simple 5-minute makeup, got her a manicure. She went on the cruise, met the love of her life. So when you can have your brand match who you are, miracles really do happen.
Mhm.
I mean, I could tell you story after story after story, and that's amazing to me. And it's even more amazing how many people don't put even the littlest bit of attention on it, because if they did, their lives would change. I just
Great.
want to inspire people to spend time on it, and it really can change your life. Even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, you should be able to look in the mirror at the beginning of every day and love what's looking back at you.
Yeah.
And you have the same body, you have the same wrinkles, you have the same everything, but with a little bit of attention, you can change the way you feel. And changing the way you feel about yourself changes your life.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing those stories. It's so right on in what you're saying. Absolutely right on. But I want to ask you something. So, if there's somebody who is, say, really unsure about changing the way they look because they think they have to look a certain way, even though they don't feel that way, like you're talking about the personality of the person needs to come through in what they're wearing, but they feel like I need to dress this way because that's just what I should do. How do you talk to people like that and help them change their mind about that?
Give me an example.
So, you know, for their job, they feel like I need to be wearing something that's, conservative. It needs to just be like a brown suit or a blue suit or a black suit. And that's just all they wear. But that's not their personality.
Mhm.
So, how would they change it and feel still comfortable working in that environment and with what they're wearing?
So, great question. I feel like if the pandemic did one good thing, it would have gotten most of those people out of their box, right? There was good with it. Those people who were stuck in a box of only wearing a brown suit every day, A, they weren't going to their office wearing that brown suit.
Mm.
B, they may or may not have been back in the office since. And I feel like it's shooken up how all of us dress.
Mm.
So, and yes, there are a lot of bad habits people have, right? I mean, any person listening to this right now could go in their closet and with a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, identify at least three bad habits, right? Things that they wear that they don't love, things that they wear that don't feel like them. Well, first of all, it's context. Why would you make a change in the first place? So there has to be like a desire or a desired outcome. Otherwise, they shouldn't stop wearing the brown suit. Like, keep doing it, right? But if you want to change and you want to see what else is possible and you want to feel better about yourself, that's when we come in, right? So then I would have them sit down and I walk people through this exercise in a course that I have, which is I walk them through how to design your first impression. So that's the first step is who are you on the inside? And that could be the most difficult question I ever ask somebody is who are you? What are the most important characteristics of who you are? In 3 to 5 adjectives. So that's the first step is who are you? And then going into your closet and seeing if that matches, right? Like Steve,
Right.
he's funny, vivacious, fun, whatever. If he walked into his closet, he would have seen conservative, boring, etc. Right? So I think that's the first place to start. And then while you're in your closet evaluating, does this represent that first impression? And be willing to let it go if it doesn't.
Right.
And I say be willing because that's a big part of it. You know, it's not an easy exercise and I never take it lightly with any of my clients. A lot of people think that who we are for ourselves is all wrapped up in how we look and how we dress. So we get attached to clothing, right? I'm sure you could see it for yourself in some ways.
Hmm.
So instead, you have to separate yourself from it and realize that it's just an article of clothing. It's not who you are. And if that article of clothing doesn't serve you to be the best you, then you should probably let it go.
Yeah.
You know? I love Marie Kondo because she started making my life easy when she came out with her book. I love her because she has you look at everything and say, does it bring me joy?
Right.
And the minute she came out with that book, I had clients texting me, emailing, calling, saying, do you know she wrote a book about what you do? Which cracked me up. But we go a step further because it's not just about if it brings you joy, because maybe those sweatpants bring you joy, but they don't look great. So for me, it's about matching your brand and it bringing you joy.
Yeah.
So redesigning yourself is critical, but it's only critical if you're up to big things.
Hmm. Yeah. Good point. I love those points that you just brought up. Looking at your closet, does this serve me anymore? Does it bring me joy? And you know what's interesting is I feel like for me personally, when I go into my closet, there are some pieces in there that I am holding on to because maybe I spent a lot of money on them.
Oh,
And I feel like I can't get rid of them until I get my use out of it. I've gotten my money out of it or whatever.
yeah, I hear that a
But
lot.
right, but it maybe doesn't look the best on me. I don't like it really anymore, but I just can't seem to let it go.
Yeah.
Is it just like you have to sort of say, I just have to let this go? I mean, like, how do you help your clients
Yeah.
to do
So
that?
I believe in energy. Do you believe in
Mm,
energy?
absolutely.
Okay. So I believe that everything has energy, right? Clothing, color, everything has energy to it. And so if there's pieces in your wardrobe, which 99.9% of people there are that don't serve us, there's an energy they're giving to us and we're giving with them. There's an energetic exchange, right? And it's probably not a good one because every time you look at it, you're like, oh, I spent so much money from a place of frustration, not from like joy, right?
Right.
So if that happens, or another thing is people put their skinny clothes in their closet,
Mhm,
waiting to get back to that weight. And it gives you the same kind of energy, the like lack or a bad decision or I'm fat or whatever that energy clothes give us that aren't fulfilling us. So, one thing that I say, being a believer in energy, is you could thank the clothes.
mhm,
Like, pick up that piece that you paid a lot of money for and thank it for being in your life and, making you feel great when you wore it. And now it's time to give it to someone else who will love it. And that's an energetic exchange, right? And whether it be that you sell it with consignment, right? And make some money back and someone else gets it at a discount, or whether you give it to your best friend who's been admiring it for years, or whether you donate it to an organization like Dress for Success. But if you can thank it energetically, have come from gratitude, thank it, and then give it away with joy, oh my gosh, what will happen in your life, right? So people think that holding on to things and like this attachment is okay, which on one hand, anything's okay, but like the joy that it brings you to release. And I think the release is so important because it's kind of like if you're an artist and you have a blank canvas in front of you, like, if my daughter draws on the canvas, I'm not gonna pick up the canvas and start drawing on it. It already has stuff on it, right? So, you have to be willing to get rid of what you don't love to create something new.
mhm.
Sometimes people call me and say, "Well, do we really have to go through my closet? Can't we just start with the shopping part? I really just need new clothes." Well, you could if you just need new clothes, but we go deeper than that and we rebrand you. So, no, that's not what I do.
Yeah.
I help you create yourself newly and in such an inspired way that you really do love who you are every day and love
Mhm.
how you look because that's inspiring.
For sure. Something that you said about, the releasing of these pieces of clothing that, just it's time to let them go. The relief I think that you feel too,
Yeah.
like of letting that go. And how frustrating it is when you're looking at something that doesn't fit right anymore
Yeah.
and the kind of negative self-talk that can come from that, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you let that go, just the relief
Yeah.
that you can feel, and then you're not having those conversations anymore. I mean, maybe it's something that you do need to address, whatever that case may be, but the relief of letting that go, you don't have to have that conversation anymore when you're looking at what's in your closet. So I think
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
And you brought up a really good point that I'm also passionate about, which is that negative self-talk happens a lot about our bodies, especially as women, right? So as we age and change and have babies or get older or gain weight or lose weight, I mean there's so many different things that happen to a woman's body that it's so important to learn to love yourself. And I don't think enough women do. And so that's another thing that I go deep on in my course is how do you create a new relationship with your body? Because if you go into your closet and you think, okay, I'm too fat for that. That doesn't work. That doesn't fit. That's too tight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, you're punishing yourself. And if we take that, you have a relationship with your body, right? Like I
Yes.
have a relationship with my husband. You also have a relationship with your body. And if I'm mean to my husband every single day, our marriage isn't really going to work out, right? Same thing with your body, but people don't think of it that way. They think
No.
it's okay to punish themselves. So if I punish my husband, he's not going to give me anything I want, right? But if I treat him with kindness and respect, then we're going to have a better relationship and it's going to be more fulfilling and awesome. So, so you've got to create an amazing relationship with your body. You don't have to. But if you do, it will give back to you immensely. I've worked with women that are size 28 when they start working with me. I give them exercises to do that aren't physical exercises, but I give them mental exercises to do to transform their relationship with their body. And I've had clients lose 100 pounds in 6 months because they're treating their body with respect and they're creating a new relationship. And I'll tell you, one of the exercises I have people do just to give a little freebie to your audience is to look in the mirror every morning naked. Difficult one. If you can't do it naked in the beginning, do it with clothes on and look to see what you can appreciate about your body. Find one thing. For some people, it may be like that you can walk. Great. Start there. For some people, it's that your legs can have you go for a run or get you up and down the stairs. You may start small and that's okay. But over time, if you do this exercise religiously, you will transform and you'll come from gratitude with your body, which will change your life. And then you can start looking at the areas you really don't like. Like for most women, it's their stomachs. And you can start to appreciate what can you be grateful for with your stomach? It digests my food. It allowed me to have a baby. There's so many things,
Yeah.
right? And it hosts all my organs in there. So if you can transform your relationship with your body, that's a good start too
Mhm.
to change in your life. So I really like to work with people on all the different aspects. So again, when people say this is superficial, it's not. It really is life changing. And that's why I say, with our online course, I really do say like give us 6 weeks and we'll transform your life.
I love that you really thank you for sharing, by the way,
Yeah.
that fantastic tip about really finding what it is that you can be grateful for and thankful for your body, because you're absolutely right. I mean, we really our body is a truly a miracle,
Yeah.
whatever shape and size, it truly is a miracle. But to thank your body for the things that it can do, that's amazing. So I love that you're working mindset
Yes.
as well, and that's phenomenal. I
Mm.
want to touch on the Reiki aspect. I had a guest on
Yeah.
previously who is also a Reiki practitioner.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit more about that. Like, how do you incorporate that in what you're doing?
So it's kind of my private love. I became a Reiki master, I don't know, a year ago or so. And mostly I practice on myself and sometimes my family. I don't do it to clients or
Mm.
outside of that. But what I love about it is, again, I really believe in energy, and all Reiki is the movement of energy. And so I like to use it to start my day moving energy and clearing out anything that doesn't serve me so that I can just be as happy, as positive and of service as possible for the people I interact with that day, whether it be on a podcast or with my family or with clients that I'm dressing. I just want to clear out as much of my garbage as possible so that I can just be a clean vessel to do good in the world.
No, that's awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so now let's touch on the topic of podcasts because you did
Mm,
recently launch your own podcast.
I
So
do.
tell us about it. What's it called and what it is that you share on there?
Oh, awesome. So it's called Style Your Dreams. And we incorporate some personal style. We talk about self care. We talk about empowering yourself. Some days we talk about what to wear. Sometimes I talk about my challenges. Like in Denver, it has been so rainy the
Mm.
past 2 months. And rain is not something that works well with my wardrobe. So I think I have a podcast where I talked about what do you do when you have no idea how to dress? And how do you start to incorporate self care into your life? Because for a lot of women, that's not even something they know about, or in it, it could also be something that they just plain resist. Like, I don't have time for that. I have time for my family, but not that. So yeah, lots of conversations to inspire
Mm.
and to have your
Mm.
dream come true.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And you talk about clearing out your own garbage. And I want to touch on that a little bit more because, we've heard it before. People have said it to us before. We've had guests on the podcast that have talked about it before. And that's you've got to take care of yourself so you can take care of others, right? And as you said, so that I can be of service to other people because what happened when we've got this stuff that we're not feeling good about, it just carries over through everyone that we touch in our lives, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, I think I love that there's that thing when you're in an airplane that says put your oxygen mask on first and then attend to your children. How many moms in particular do you know that wouldn't do that? A lot,
Yeah.
right? They would be like, no, my kid comes first. But the truth is, if you don't come first, you don't have enough to give to your kid. And I can't stress that enough, especially with women. I have an almost 11-year-old. And there weren't a lot of great role models around me. I didn't know of many. I saw women not taking showers, not doing their makeup, not doing their hair, barely brushing their teeth. And I vowed never to be like that. So I actually said, there will not be one day that goes by having a brand new baby where I will not put makeup on and I will not do my hair and get dressed. And I'm not doing it for that baby. I'm certainly not doing that for my husband. I'm doing that for me. I've stayed true to that. And, it's inspiring because now my daughter is completely empowered about looking beautiful and feeling great about herself. In fact, sometimes if I want her to wear something and she doesn't, she's like, Mommy, you really want me to look like I've given up on life? And I'm like, okay, okay, go change. Right. So she uses it against me. But I think it's so imperative to do all the little things you can do. I mean, you can start with 5 minutes a day, and that can change your life. Can I tell you a quick story?
Of course.
Okay. So I used to listen to a lot of podcasts that would say things like, oh, yes, I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and do my meditation and write in my journal and ha ha ha. And I was like, who are these crazy people? Like, I will never lose sleep over all of that. Like, no, and
Mm.
I would hear it. You've heard him, right?
Of course.
You hear him all the time. And I was always thinking, okay, I can't even follow you anymore because that's so unrealistic for me. But one day I stopped and I went, okay, well, what can I do? Because I noticed I wasn't taking I would do self care, like do my hair and makeup and things like that. But I wasn't doing self care for my inner soul and my spirit. This was many years ago. So I was like, well, what can I invest in? And I decided I could wake up 30 minutes before my family.
Mm.
30 minutes. That's it. I could wake up 30 minutes early and have 30 minutes of quiet time to meditate, do Reiki, do whatever feeds my soul, and then jump into my day with my family. And I will tell you, I don't know how many years ago I started that, maybe 5. And it has changed my entire life. And it's also set boundaries with my family. So My daughter, if she happens to wake up early and she sees my meditation door closed, she knows mommy's not available. Make her own breakfast. She can take care of herself. And it's amazing how much people will step up when you start setting your own boundaries and taking care of yourself.
Mm, yeah, great point.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Carrie, it's been such a delight to have you on the show, and I really honestly feel like I could talk to you for another hour easily. You have just so much great information to
Mm,
share.
thanks.
But I do want to finish up our show and ask you if there's any books that you have read or are reading now, or podcasts that you are still listening to that you'd like to share with the listeners that you think would be beneficial.
Yeah. Great question. Let's see. My favorite book is probably The Untethered Soul by Michael
Mhm.
Singer. Have you read that one?
I have. Yeah,
It's
fantastic.
so good, isn't it? And I have it on Audibles, and sometimes I'll just go for a walk and listen to a chapter because it just puts life in perspective.
Mhm.
I really love that. Podcasts I am religious on is I love James Wedmore's Mind Your Business podcast. I don't know if you know that one,
No,
but
that's a new
I've
one
been
for me.
listening to it for years, and he is very into being mindful and very inspiring. And then an influencer that I love that I've been telling people more and more about is Amanda Francis. And
Okay.
do you know Amanda Francis?
I don't.
She has a course called Money Mentality Makeover, and she's the money maven. And she's very inspirational, very spiritual, very money mindset. You can have it all. And I love her. And you can find her on Instagram. Those are
Nice.
probably my top three.
I love it. I'll go ahead and include all that information in the show notes for the
Yeah.
listeners for quick, easy access to find that. Again, Carrie, it's been so wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing the great tips that you shared with us
Yeah.
and your story and your journey. I love it. Thank you again for coming on the show and sharing with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I too could talk to you for hours. So thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay.